You have just read about a few strategies for making learning relevant to your students. As you watch this video, keep the following questions in the back of your mind. How does my outlook affect the way my students relate to their materials? What if I think the material I have to teach is not relevant? As human beings, we are all constantly building our own worldview. We naturally take the information we encounter throughout the day and try to understand it in a way that makes sense according to that worldview. In many ways, that is the power you have as a teacher. You help shape the way your students view the world, the people, and the environment they live with. And this is something that they will carry through their entire lives. Right now, your students probably have a very limited worldview. That world is made up of their family, their school, their community, friends, and possibly their after-school job. In that world, things like social studies and algebra may not play an important role. If a student does not believe a particular activity is interesting, relevant, or that he or she is capable of performing the activity, it is probably not going to be assimilated. And this presents a challenge to you as a teacher, because if your students find information irrelevant, they're less likely to learn it. Your job is to make sure your lessons are relevant to not just some of your students, but all of your students. As you already learned, essential questions are one way to do this. Here are a few more strategies you can try. Connect the material that you're teaching to the real world your students are living in. Discuss how theoretical concepts can be applied in everyday practices. Make a link to local cases. Relate subject matter to everyday applications. Discuss and find applications in current newsworthy issues and events. In other words, make sure your students know why they are learning a particular lesson and why it is important. If students feel they can immediately use this information to better understand and engage with the world, they are more likely to remember it. You also want to make sure that information is personally relevant to your students. In other words, students should find the information appealing, emotionally, or interesting. Use suspense and keep the lesson fresh and interesting. Drop hints about a new learning unit before you reveal what it might be, or leave the gaping pauses in your speech. This can activate emotional insights and keep students interested. Make it student-directed. Give students a choice of assignments on a particular topic, or ask them to design one of their own. When students are involved in designing the lesson, they better understand the goal of the lesson and become more emotionally invested and attached to the learning outcomes. Connect it to their lives and what they already know. Taking the time to brainstorm about what students already know and would like to learn about a topic helps them to create goals and helps teachers see the best points of departure for new ideas. Answer the questions, when am I going to use this? Make sure students know how and when they can apply the information they are learning in order to reach their life goals. Finally, your students will often unconsciously look to you as a role model. If you are bored by a certain topic or say it has no relevance, then they are likely to believe the same thing. Be sure to show enthusiasm and joy in learning. Your students will pick up on that, and they will start to feel those things too. Let's review. In this lesson, you learned a few strategies for making learning relevant to your students. You learned that if students do not see a piece of information as relevant to their worldview, future goals, and daily life, they are not likely to remember it. You learned that you want to create a real-world relevance by linking your lessons to real-world scenarios, applications, current events, and everyday practices. You learn that you can create personal relevance for your students by keeping lessons interesting and helping them connect to the information on an emotional level. Use suspense and keep the lesson fresh and interesting. Make your lessons student-directed. Connect the information to their daily lives and make sure they know how what they are learning will help them to achieve their life goals. Finally, you learn that students will look to you as a role model when engaging with new content. So make sure you are demonstrating joy and excitement for learning. Now is a good time to answer those questions. Once you've done that, apply your answers to the themes of this video.